Hello gamers, today I am playing a Saints Row game, but lucky for me I am not playing the new DLC for the reboot, as after my experience with the heist and the hazardous, I straight up refuse to spend my money on that game. So I'm going back to play the only Saints game in the classic era that I didn't play, that being the last game of said era, Saints Row Gat Out of Hell. Now, going into this game, I didn't know too much about it. I was aware of the Johnny Gat singing scene,
You think I don't know?
as I'd seen it in many memes before and used it myself in the reboot video. I was also told a rumor that this game was originally made as a DLC for Saints Row 4, which I have come to find out is very much true, as the game is classed as a standalone expansion for Saints Row 4 and not its own game. And let's just say there are certain aspects throughout the game where you can very much tell it was made as a DLC, although with saying that is still 100 times better than any of the reboot DLCs or the reboot itself. Believe it or not, I was actually able to complete this game, unlike the heist and the hazardous. With saying that, this game has about the same amount of missions as those DLCs, they're just a bit longer with a lot more steps. So the first of these missions starts you off in the spaceship from 4, where the team is celebrating Kenzie's birthday, when the mad lad himself, Matt Deck, brings out a Ouija board? How do you say that? Why have I forgotten? Ouija board, that's it. He brings out a Ouija board.
It's a bunch of letters. It's tradition. Every slumber party has to involve a spirit board.
Slumber party?
How's it work?
We ask it a question, and the spirit of the board will reveal the answer.
How?
Yeah, someone pushes the pointy thing to wherever they want.
Wait. Can we go back to you and your slumber parties?
No time. All right. Everyone put their hands on the cursor.
Cursor. I feel the magic already.
All right. Will the president/god emperor for life ever choose a partner to reign alongside them?
No.
Ooh, someone's getting married.
Shut up, Matt.
Who will tame the president's wild heart?
What are you guys trying to spell?
I'm not moving it.
That's the spirit, Kinsey.
I'm serious.
I'm not moving it either.
Neither am I.
Jezebel? Who the fuck is...
Is that not normal?
Where'd you get the board?
I was going through Signac's artifact collection and found it there.
Who did it belong to?
Alistair Crowley?
Christ. Guys, I think it's laughing at us.
Fuck this. I think you're a smart enough piece of wood to see where this is going.
Which then allows Satan himself to open a portal to hell and kidnap the boss to marry his daughter. Which of course, Gat, being Gat, decides that the best option is to go to hell to kill Satan to free the boss. So off to hell he goes. Oh, and Miss Kenzie Kensington gets to come along because it's her birthday and she wants to, I guess. After opening up the portal and going to the underworld, Gat and Kenzie find themselves in hell, which just so happens to look a lot like Steelport, which does make this the third game in a row to use the Steelport map. However, this time Steelport has had a major facelift. However, in this case, it's more of a major facelift that has gone horribly wrong, but in a good way, as this hellscape version of Steelport just so happens to be my favourite version. Maybe it's something to do with me thinking this map is hell after being stuck in it for 2 of my least favourite Saints Row games, or the lava and magma they added, and the ghouls all over the place. Who could know for sure? Because I don't. Apart from the devilish landscape, the first thing Gat and Kenzie see is a billboard for the Altor Corporation, with their company slogan that has been modified just a little bit to fit its new location, reading "A brighter future and a better afterlife," with Gat immediately recognizing Dane Vogel's face on the billboard. So they decide that would be a good spot to start. So Johnny and Kenzie make their way to the Altor building. After stealing a motorbike, our protagonists make their way to the tower, meeting Dane Vogel himself in the lobby. As it would seem, as a part of hell, he does not get an assistant or a receptionist. After interrogating Vogel, Johnny learns that it is the devil himself who kidnapped the boss/president/player to marry his daughter, due to all the trouble and torment the boss has caused throughout his life. Johnny then informs Dane of his amazingly complex plan to just simply put a bullet through Satan's head.
They needed a plan, and Johnny had one.
I'm gonna shoot the devil in the face.
I think you might be skipping some details.
No, I said in the face.
I like the commitment, but you gotta find a way to get close enough to him in the first place.
When's the wedding? I'll just show up
And then you'll shoot him in the face. Sorry, but it's a little more complicated than that.
And then Vogel states that this plan won't work pretty clearly, and that we needed to destroy stuff and take down the 5 archdukes that Satan uses to run hell. And as it would turn out, the Altor CEO has spent millions of dollars to get his hands on something to help Johnny tear down hell. That being Lucifer's cracked halo, which grants Johnny the wings of Mr. Morningstar, among other powers. But first, a tutorial level on how to use the wings, which also introduces us to the soul clusters, the game's collectible needed to upgrade the wings, and super sprint and other abilities you'll pick up along the way. This is literally the exact same thing as data clusters from 4, which I have to say, this is probably my least favorite way to do collectibles or skill ups in any video game, and I'm very happy it did not catch on, as it, apart from being a pain to do, it just makes the world also look so ugly whenever you look, seeing blue orbs in the skies or on buildings. After going for a bit of a test flight with the wings, Johnny must now get to recruiting people to assist him in taking down the devil. So he starts with the devil of the high seas, one Edward Thatch, also more famously known as Blackbeard. After helping Blackbeard to clear his ships of imps that were attacking it, Blackbeard gives us the power to summon imps to fight alongside us. Which does make me think, if Blackbeard had the power to summon and control imps, why were they attacking and destroying his ship? But that's too much thinking for a Saints Row game. So anyways, next up on the journey of wacky people to recruit to the squad is one William Shakespeare, the legendary author. There's also at this point in the game when I found out that you can swap between Gat and Kenzie, which I did for a total of 1 mission and switched back, as it's very clear that adding Kenzie as a playable character was a second thought, as when people talk to Kenzie, they still use he, him pronouns.
The mortal stands in the training grounds, eager to try out his new force stomp power on the group of demons in front of them.
And this game was released 2 years after Saints Row 5, so maybe they felt they had to add the second playable character. Who knows? That was a bit of a side note though. Back to Shakespeare, who has Kenzie kill some demons who wanted him dead. After completing this task, as a thanks, William joins the team and also teaches us the ability of Force Stomp, which also has a sort of kind of DJ dubstep blast attack to it. As I forgot to mention, William Shakespeare is also now a DJ. For whatever reason. After switching back to the superior playable character, we make our way to rally our next ally, a person who holds a very interesting spot in real life history, that being the leader of a certain part of Romania that I'm not going to attempt to pronounce, Vlad III, also known as Vlad the Impaler, or maybe more commonly known as the inspiration between one of literature's greatest vampires, Dracula. which I believe also means son of the dragon, as his dad was referred to as the hand of the dragon or something like that. It's pretty cool if you ignore everything they did. Although, when Gat finds him in hell, he is not really in the best spot, as he is being tortured in a prison that looks more like a kindy class or a daycare, with Vlad and a group of teddy bears singing "The World on the Bus Go Round and Round."
The horn on the bus goes beep, 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 beep.
And Gat frees him and stops the music. In return, the Impaler teaches Gat the power of Aura, which is just some kind of area of effect move. Now, our epic team to take down Satan is almost complete. There are just 2 more people to be recruited. A set of twins. Now, you may be thinking, who could it be? Perhaps the Cray twins, criminals to rival that of the Saints? That would have been cool. Unfortunately, they did not go that way, as the twins we end up with may be familiar to you if you played Saints Row 3, that being the De Winter twins of Viola and Kiki, and they have taken their entrepreneurialism to hell with them, which obviously rubbed some demons the wrong way. So Gat shows up to help them, where Viola is very happy to learn that Kenzie is also in hell. After defending the sisters and helping them gain a little bit of control over their competitors in the hell business, they reward Gat by teaching him the ability of Blast. So after we meet all of our allies, I think this is the best time to talk about the special attacks that we just mentioned, that being Stomp, Summon, Blast, and Aura. These abilities are pretty similar to the abilities from 4, and they can be pretty useful throughout the game. They are, however, not very unique, as for the most part, excluding certain activities, they all do the same thing. Apart from, of course, the Summoning Imp skill. They all just feel a little bit different, and they damage the enemies in a little bit of a different way, but they're pretty similar. They all do about the same amount of damage, and they are all used to get rid of the shields of the enemies referred to as the Dark Insiders. The next mission was Gear Up, which is as simple as it sounds. Johnny had to find himself a vending machine, which are located all around the map, to upgrade and buy new weapons. You can also wipe your notoriety at these vending machines. And I don't like that this is done through a vending machine instead of a shop with an interior or a forgive and forget drive-through. Now, in my video on the reboot, I did talk about how weapon upgrades were not done very good in that game, as they didn't change the look or feel of the weapons at all. And I point out that this is something that the other games did much better. Well, as it turns out, this game also didn't have the weapons change looks or feel whilst upgrading them. Which, of course, if it's a downside in the reboot, it is most definitely a downside in this game as well. So after completing the Gear Up mission, I started what the game calls loyalty missions, which you have to do for all of the crew you just finished recruiting. That being Dane Vogel, Blackbeard, Shakespeare, the twins, and Vlad. But before I talk about them, I want to quickly talk about what I found to be the hardest mission within this whole game. That being the mission titled Take a Break. The mission itself sounds simple enough. Go to the poor part of town and find a armchair and sit on it. This armchair just so happens to have miniguns attached to the side of it. And it should be simple to find. They give you a small area of the map to search. The problem is, even when you get very close to the chair, there is no prompt to sit down or anything that pops up telling you you're close to it. I had so much difficulty finding it that I had to look it up on YouTube where it is. And even the YouTube video I watched, whilst giving a tutorial on how to find the chair, struggled to find the chair. But after a good 26 minutes of looking for the armchair, I finally found it. And it was a pretty fun weapon to get your hands on, or in this case, I guess, to get your butt on. The mission was just so much harder than I ever expected it to be, but at the same time, it's important to mention that it's not good hard, if that makes sense. It's just hard, which now I feel I've said the word hard too many times. So I think we're going to promptly move on to the loyalty missions. as I mentioned, the loyalty missions are missions that have to be completed for all of the crew you just put together. And this will make the bulk of the game's missions. The way you progress through the story is to fill Satan's wrath bar, which you can see in the menu screen. You can do this by going around killing random NPCs, and there's even a chance you come across Dax from the first Saints Row game to kill, which also helps progress. But the main way is by completing these aforementioned loyalty missions. Now, you may be thinking, since these loyalty missions are such a large part of the game, that they must be some pretty good missions. Unfortunately, as you could probably tell, this is not the case at all, as the loyalty missions are just the side activities from the other games that you are forced to do, with their own devilish little spin on them. And I also do believe that some of them were original to the Gat Out of Hell game. So let's take a look at them. So let's start at what Saints Row does best. Insurance fraud. However, in this game it is renamed to torment fraud to go with the hellish theme, in which the idea is that you are taking control of a ghoul, and by throwing them into cars and the sorts, you are knocking down the time that they are required to spend in hell. And like every other Saints Row game pre-reboot, this is just so much fun, and it works just like the previous games, apart from the fact that you are not the main character when you are doing the torment fraud. Hellblazing is one of those kind of original activities throughout the game. I mean, it's a wraith, so how original can it really be? It is basically a time trial, but you are flying around hell. And I haven't really mentioned this apart from the fact that saying you get the wings, but they feel so good to fly with. Once you have fixed the controls, that is, as they started off inverted for whatever reason. Now, upsettling the courses were not very difficult or much of a challenge, but they were still fun. However, something that is not fun is the spires littered throughout the map. The spires are something that Satan has dotted around the map in order to slow Johnny down. And all they do is they stop you from being able to fly in an area of the map. So they are basically a collectible that stops you from being able to do this game's strongest thing. That obviously being the flying. Next up, however, is a classic Saints Row game mode of Mayhem, in which the goal is to cause as much property damage as possible, with cash goals to be met. And this is as fun as it is in every other Saints Row game. It's also the exact same, but that's fine. Salvation will be the last activity I'm going to talk about, as it is another one of those original ones. And it has you flying around saving souls. These souls are either falling to hell or the souls are going up. The ones that are going up also have a shield where you need to shoot them with a blast effect. However, after helping out all of your homies, it is finally time to take on the Red Lad himself, Satan. Luckily, after a quick song break, we have somehow convinced Jezebel, aka Satan's daughter, to help us to kill Satan and free the boss.
I'm sick of perdition, so tired of tradition, but now my time has come to go break away, to live for today, to stand out beneath the sun. I know there has to be some way for me to be free, just living a life that's far from the strife and torturous pain, some place that's far from here and not awash with fear. Oh God, I can't wait to cast off this hate. I want to find love.
Now, at the start of the game, which I mentioned at the start of the video as well, if you remember, that Satan has 5 archdukes we would have to kill. Now, I never saw these archdukes, yet alone put a bullet in any of them. So either somehow I bypassed all of that, or the developers forgot to add it. Even though it was only mentioned in the game like 2 hours ago, as the game is only about 2.5 hours long. But anyways, it is time for Johnny Gat to finally complete this game-long arc of putting a bullet through Satan's head.
Hey, Satan! You want to get out of here?
I can't believe that worked.
Occam's razor.
So how does the final and only boss fight turn out? Well, it is by far the longest fight in the game, but I have to say I was playing on the hardest difficulty and I found this fight very easily. I don't even think I was ever close to death throughout it. It was, however, as I mentioned, a long fight with Satan having a bunch of stages and even at one point where he spawns in ads to attack Johnny and Kenzie. But at last, Johnny kills the devil, and is awarded by none other than God himself, who gives Johnny a bunch of options on how the game ends. Of course, as this is the last game before the reboot, none of these endings affect anything apart from one option, which has God bring back the world, but reboot the saints. So I guess that is the option that the devs went for. Personally, myself, I let Johnny Gat go to heaven where he could be with Aisha, his one and only true love, if you ask me. Screw Jezebel, which they had like a thing, but that's not important. So, to briefly cap off my thoughts on this game, well, I did have fun playing it, and the flying mechanic is definitely something that you could have a lot of enjoyment with. However, you can also very much see the path they took for the reboot, starting in this game. But at the same time, depending on who you ask, they will say the road for the reboots started way back with Saints Row the Third. Either way, this is a game of a bygone era for the Saints Row franchise. And I don't think, personally, at this point, there will ever be a way back to this era.
Emboldened by the power of song, Jezebel set out to find the one man that could save her from her impending nuptials. Fortunately for her, Johnny's trail of destruction wasn't too hard to follow.
One night with any lover, but you have to punch a panda. Do you do it?
Ooh, good question.
Mr. Gat?
Who are you?
Well, I'm
We're not doing that again.
Oh, okay. I'm Jezebel.
Good to know.
What are you doing?
Threatening you. You're not marrying the president.
I don't want to marry the president.
Wow, that was easier than I thought.
My dad's making me do it. What now?
Now I'm holding you hostage.
You don't need to do this.
Yeah, that's what hostages always say.
No, like, you really don't need to do this. I'm here to help you.
Yeah, but I already have the gun drawn, so,
Are you kidding me?
maybe. I'm not sure yet, I'm kinda winging it.
Can you wing it without the gun?
It's a comfort thing.
Not for me.
What do you want?
For you to put the gun down.
Get used to disappointment.
You sound like my father.
What?
He's always telling me that life is about misery, not happiness. That dreams only exist to make people forget about their own mediocrity.
Man, that's depressing.
Being the devil's daughter sucks.
What do you want?
I want to punch my dad in the face.
We're gonna get along just fine.